Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hartford Whalers expansion franchise here on NHL 24. Unfortunately, our Whalers have been bounced from the 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs, so we're going to have to settle for some Calder Cup action as our AHL club here. The Poughkeepsie Panthers have made it all the way here, a matchup against the Iowa Wild, of course, of the Minnesota Wild organization. Our Poughkeepsie Panthers do feature our number one prospect in our organization, Fredrik Lehner, right wing, who will be featured on our second line. But here on the top line, we see Andrei Vorobiev, number 49, right wing sniper, former first-round pick out of Russia. And that was back in the year 2 offseason, same draft class as the aforementioned Fredrik Lehner. But our Whalers bounced in Game 6 as we fell in that series 4-2 in overtime loss at Madison Square Garden against the New York Rangers. Here we see Vorobiev carrying it into the zone back for Riley Damiani, and he shoots that right into, I believe, Matt Zuccarello. Over 1,500 games of NHL experience, but he is going to have to settle for an AHL Calder Cup baby, although he did help the Minnesota Wild win the Stanley Cup back in year 2 of this franchise. And there's Vorobiev, and so take it in. Gives for Riley Damiani trying to finish on the forehand. Good cross-crease pass, but that is denied. The Minnesota Wild the Iowa Wild collectively have over 2,500 games of NHL experience, and there's Frederick Gaudreau, one of the players with a lot of games to his credit. Jaromir Pitlick now carrying it for Poughkeepsie into the corner, loses the handle, and that's back for Grundstrom. Carl Grundstrom, another player on this team with NHL experience, as the Iowa Wild, a lot of NHL games. As I said, they have over 2,500, and as our Poughkeepsie Panthers, we have 34 between 3 players, as that shot goes wide. And G Javon Marks, our standout goaltender, up to an 81 overall, a second-round pick back in the year 1 offseason. As we get some action here towards the net, Bouchard trying to get backdoor, and that was intercepted. Now Spacek heading the Wild up the ice into the zone. He does just dump that along behind the net, picked up by Xavier Bouchard. Bounce pass off the boards there for Zeb Forsvahal, part of our inaugural draft class back in episode 2 of this series. As he has it in front of the net, back now for Fredrik Lehner. A rocket there goes wide, and that's Lehner, our top prospect, as we were talking about. We're going to get a good look at him in this game. This might be the first full-length game. A huge hit there by Jeremy Hansel, and he was also part of that inaugural draft class, former Seattle Thunderbird of the WHL, as Kyle Morey will dump that in, a 2-goal effort back in that series where we swept the Hershey Bears. And now Lorentz carrying it in. Steven Lorentz, another player on this Wild team with NHL experience, feeds him in right in the slot, and there's Javon Marks able to glove it. And Javon Marks all but set to be the backup goaltender and even our future franchise goaltender of the future, as he was a former second-round pick, as I said, 38th overall, and I want to say that would have been the 2024 NHL draft. Here's Yuri Ovechkin, defenseman we signed undrafted last year, as he'll dump that in and picked up by Mietinen, as he's met by Ali Leixel, one of the 3 players with NHL experience on our Poughkeepsie team, as Addison leading in for the Wild. He's hit off the puck. Strong hit there by Colton Roberts as he feeds up as we enter the zone. Into the corner now, centering pass for Roberts, the big defenseman there standing tall at 6'6", as that is stopped by Guzda. And now Tommaso De Luca on the draw against Banquier, as De Luca does win that back for Ovechkin now for Varlamov, as Matt Zuccarello will take it back the other way. Now a 40-year-old Matt Zuccarello playing for a Calder Cup here. Of course, a very decorated NHL career, mostly with Minnesota and the New York Rangers. And the Rangers are actually still alive after this game. We are going to simulate the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs and see how that goes. We have the Rangers up 2-1 in the Eastern Conference Finals over the Florida Panthers. And we also have the Colorado Avalanche up 2-1 over the St. Louis Blues there in the West. And now the Wild are going to dump it in, giving chase, and picking it up there is Roberts. As he'll feed over for Toporowski. Toporowski will give that for Tommaso De Luca, the Italian, a shot there, as that's snatched up by Guzda. Our top line back out there, Riley Damiani, one of the 3 players with NHL experience, along with Ali Leixel, and also one of our defensemen, Himo Salmi, I believe number 21 there, as he does pick it up. Himo Salmi, all his experience, I believe, coming with the Calgary Flames a few years back. And there's Hunt, one of the top defensemen here for Iowa, as he goes up for Grundstrom. He's hit off the puck, And that's going to be picked up by Jacob Holmes now, giving to Blade Jenkins. Jenkins for Heimel Salmi, now for Damiani. Into the zone. Damiani working towards the net, and he's overtaken there by Nicholas Robertson, another NHLer here for this stacked Iowa Wild team. Looking at their ratings before the game, they were, pretty much in consideration, I think, with a bottom-tier NHL team. And that definitely says a lot considering their level. But our Poughkeepsie Panthers had 15 more regular season wins than they did. And now Fredrik Lehner here, snatching it, now setting up Zeb Forsvahal, but he cannot get a shot off, but backdoor there, Fredrik Lehner, a gift on his stick, as he now has 14 playoff points in 14 playoff games, as he sets the pace for our team, and that's his 6th goal now of this playoff run, and we strike first in this series. Good puck movement into the zone, getting Forsvahal back involved. His shot didn't really land where it wanted to, but instead it landed on the stick of Lehner. We'll say a little give and go action there, as Lehner there just right where he needed to be. The puck ended up right on the stick, and he finishes in the back of the net. We're up 1-0, 4:23 remaining in this first period of the Calder Cup, as Heimel Salmi now taking it into the zone, overtaken there by Steven Lorentz, former San Jose Shark, and now working against the boards. Fredrik Lehner back with it, trying to get number 2 here. Battling through a hit there from Lorentz. Now behind the net is Lehner. Feeds back for Hansel. And now back for Lehner as he's overtaken by Lambos, but Jaromir Pitlick, and that's highway robbery by Guzda, stretching out and snatching that one with the glove and preserving that 1-goal deficit, as Poughkeepsie right on the doorstep of doubling it, but instead still 1-0. Kyle Morey now out on the face-off for Poughkeepsie to the left of Guzda. Iowa does win that back for Lambos, now for Spacek, as he's hit off the puck. Poughkeepsie bringing the boom so far, leading on the scoreboard, but definitely bringing more physicality as well. And now Ali Likesell will dump it in and give some chase. Picked up by Spacek, though, and he goes over for Lorentz. Lorentz past center ice, now into the zone for Iowa, trying to get the equalizer. Lorentz into the slot, and a great save there by Marks. Has not been tested much in this first period, but he has been up to par when prompted. And you see the numbers there, 10-3 over this playoff run with a 2.21 goals against average and a 9.28 save percentage. He has been phenomenal, and the regular season numbers were pretty much even with that. And then off the draw, a weak shot from the point, snatched up into the upper body there of Marks, and we'll do it again. This time to the left of Marks, the bottom line out there from Iowa, as they win another faceoff, but Ali Likesell snatches it there, breakaway, but he turns away, did not have the jets, and then ends up turning it over there at the point. Edstrom now back the other way. Questionable play there from Likesell, and that almost leads to an Iowa goal, but Marks able to keep that one out of the net as Bouchard gives to Schwartz on the counter rush, but he's hit off the puck by Otteson. Picked up by Morey now into the final seconds of this first period. Morey a rip there, and that's going to go all the way around behind Marks, as that does take us down to the second period. A 1-0 lead here for the Poughkeepsie Panthers. A great goal there from Fredrik Lehner. We were talking about him as our top prospect in the organization, trying to make the roster for next season, which he very much could, as we outshot them just 5-4 in that period, but more than doubled their time on attack, and we outhit them 12-5. So let's keep up that physicality, keep setting the tone, and if we can score another goal or two, I think we'll be in good shape in this game, especially considered I think we have the goalie advantage. As again, we do lose the face-off, though, as there's Matt Zuccarello hit off the puck by Heimel Salmi, as Vorobiev gives to Riley Damiani. Damiani now for Vorobiev, but he could not handle that, as Zuccarello gives now for Hunt, for Banquier, as he's hit off the puck, picked up now by Blade Jenkins, giving over for Vorobiev, our leading goal scorer during the regular season, with 31, his first taste of North American hockey coming over from Russia. Another player going to vie for a roster spot, but might not quite make it. We'll see how we're standing in a few months from now. Of course, next episode is going to be our Year 5 off-season episode, so come back for that and see how we equip or re-equip our Hartford Whalers team and get them into a Stanley Cup final. But before that, let's finish this Calder Cup, and we're going to go on the power play there. I think slashing was the call, already with a 1-0 lead. Let's see if we can double it. Pitlick on the face-off for Poughkeepsie, and again, we do lose it, as Lambos will clear that out of the zone. Picked up at center ice by Yuri Ovechkin, gives for Likesell, as he tries to give to his teammate, who's just absolutely obliterated. That was Zeb Forsvahal, I think just cross-checked in the face pretty much, as he hit the ice, but no call And we do have the puck back as Ovechkin gets for Lykesell. Lykesell loses the handle as Lorentz will dump it out. All the way back behind the Poughkeepsie goal almost into the corner as Pitlick picks it up. Less than a minute now on this power play. And Lykesell now leading the charge. And he can't work past the defender. And again, we squander a zone entry. And now Iowa has a chance the other way, although Yuri Ovechkin puts a stop to that. And now Forsvahal leading the charge. We do get it in now into the slot for Pitlick, who could not handle it. Now back in front for Forsvahal, trying to go short side there on the forehand, as that was closed off. And Iowa back with it into the final seconds of the power play. They get the clear, and a very easy penalty kill there. It doesn't get much easier than that. I don't know if we had a single shot as we're back to full strength. We're just turning it over a bunch in the offensive zone. As Iowa now back the other way, they do have numbers. In the slot there for Zuccarello. What a shot that was. But a better save from Javon Marks as he gloved that one. Matt Zuccarello all but denied on that one. Did not see that coming. Javon Marks with the cat-like reflexes so far. Zuccarello, though, back with it as that was blocked in front of the net. You don't want to give him another opportunity to hammer one home right in front as Damiani now back the other way. Closed off against the boards. As Zuccarello will give for Bayreuther. Although Poughkeepsie does keep it in. Bouchard a rip. Blocked by Coleman. And now Zuccarello will give for Banquier. Banquier, big hit there as he loses possession. Picked up by Hansel. And now for Vorobiev. Gets that for Bouchard. Xavier Bouchard now entering the zone for Poughkeepsie. In front for Blade Jenkins. Back to the point now for Varlamov. To the side for Damiani. Back to the point for Holmes. Blocked in traffic. Jenkins, though, a second opportunity. Kick save along the boards. Now Varlamov. Back for Bouchard. His shot blocked. Still in the zone for Poughkeepsie, though, as Jacob Holmes now with it. Picked up by DeLuca right off the bench. As that does go out of the zone. As he tries to get Varlamov off his skate. But DeLuca able to retrieve it. As, again, we will go to the power play. A tripping there at center ice. And Iowa definitely has to play a little more disciplined here, especially trailing. But our first power play was nothing to be scared of, so hopefully we can be a little more intimidating and have some more offensive zone time this go around. We do win the faceoff this time. Lehner right in front, as he had a good chance there on the forehand, as that was kept out. But we do keep it in the zone, though. At the point here, Toporowski does turn it over, as Iowa gets it out. O'Leary dumps it in. As we are going to have to retrieve it there. There's Damiani. As he fights off O'Leary, now up for Fredrik Lehner. Lehner there working past a defenseman, or at least trying to, as he can't handle that one. Hunt over for O'Leary now. A little backhand action there out of the zone. That was a little nifty there. As again, spot check there to retrieve it and gets a shot on goal nonetheless, as Marks saves that one. Now just 56 seconds left on this power play. A defensive zone draw for the Panthers. We do win it, as Lehner will try and get a man, though. And he misses his target as Ottenbright into the zone. And they score off the defensive zone turnover. And they score a shorty here. And that is just absolutely inexcusable. Just kind of a lazy turnover there in our own zone. And Turner Ottenbright was right there to retrieve it and go right towards the net. And a weak one there gets past Marks. He had contact on it, but just could not keep it in front of him. As that goes right through, under his forearm there. Over his pad and into the back of the net, as Iowa tie it up here shorthanded. And we're just better off playing at full strength, it seems, because our power play has just done more harm than good so far. And still 41 seconds of the man advantage. If we can get it back, though, no harm, no foul, I guess. Although we turn it over again there in the offensive zone as Lorentz going for the clear. And that's going to go for a delay of game. So now a third penalty on the Iowa Wild. And I don't know if I should be happy or sad about this, but we will have some 5-on-3 time. 24 seconds of 5-on-3 as we now have the face-off advantage. Back for Vorobiev, a shot, and that's gloved by Guzda. 6 minutes left in the second period. Another offensive zone draw as we do win that, but I thought we were going to turn it over. Almost had a good backdoor chance there as Haimo saw me. I'm not sure if that went off the post or not. I can't hear the audio, but that was a rip that did not find the back of the net. As we're now a minute 27 of 5-on-4. We turn it over in our own zone, but we get a feed now for Damiani on a breakaway. Riley Damiani peels back and gets Lehner who shoots that at the pad of Guzda. A good save there. I don't know why on these breakaways we're peeling back. Even Ali Likesell earlier had a shot there, but just swerved away from a chance in front of the net. And now trying to get something going here. Here's Fredrik Lehner. Gives to Heimel-Salmi. Heimel-Salmi turns it over right in front for Lambos, who does get that out of the zone. Heimel-Salmi does retrieve now over for Ovechkin. And now for Damiani. Riley Damiani turns it over. What is up with all these turnovers? My goodness gracious. And that will pretty much bring an end to the power play as we fall to 0-3. And we actually even gave up a goal. And now there's Likesell off the bench. And again, he cannot get a shot off right in front of the net. Good defense there on recovery there from Lorentz. As Banquier now gives over for Zuccarello. Good turnover there now from Toporowski. Just manning him up and now bringing it back the other way. Toporowski thought he was going to go for the cross crease in front, but just elects to go behind the net and loses it. Although does regain possession. A rip there, and that came out of nowhere, but Guzda was ready for that. Gloves it, and now just 2:31 left in the second. Kyle Morey does win that back now for Bouchard as his shot blocked, and Coleman will take it the other way. They will dump it in as we hit the 2-minute mark now in this second period. Hansel bounce pass off the boards up for Braden Schwartz, who gives for Likesell, and he loses that one. Ottenbreit now gives for Coleman. He can't get past a man there. Bouchard it was, as Likesell gives for Hansel, and his pass there for Morey goes astray, and that'll go for icing. Defensive zone draw now to the left of Javon Marks. Iowa does win that as Mietinen working towards the net, a shot blocked as Iowa's still with it. Otteson working against the boards there as he kicks it to the stick of Hansel. And now for Kyle Morey, though, kept in front of the net as Marks trying to reach for it, eventually gets it and plays it in front of himself and then plays it again. That was a weird sequence there as Likesell does dump it in into the final seconds now as we are all knotted up now heading into the third period of Game 1 of the 2028 Calder Cup as we did squander that lead on the power play nonetheless as Iowa got a shorthanded goal. We're now out shooting them 11-6, so through 2 periods of play, just 6 shots for the Wild, although they did pick up their physical game there in the second period as they got the hit total up, but we're still out hitting them. I think it was 17-13, but let's see if we can get this win in this third period. Banquier on the draw there against Riley Damiani as Damiani generated a nice chance there towards the end of the second period, but Iowa does win the faceoff and a chance there to Coleman. Although good recovery defense there from Jacob Holmes. Kicks that behind the net, picked up by Heimel-Salmi. And a good pass there up the boards for Vorobiev, but he does not receive that one. Zuccarello now for Bayreuther. Over to his back for Zuccarello it was, now for Banquier as he dumps it in. And now for Jacob Holmes. His bounce pass off the boards, picked off by Bayreuther, who gives for Hunt. Now Banquier, good feed air into the zone for Zuccarello as he goes behind the net for Coleman, back in front for Zuccarello as he got a shot off. That went across the crease and frozen though by Javon Marks. After this game, we are going to simulate the rest of this Calder Cup series, and unless we get like a Game 6 overtime situation or maybe even a Game 7, we're probably not going to see any more gameplay, but we will keep that up in the air, and depending on how the rest of the series goes, we'll definitely simulate though in real time and see who our goal scorers are and all that. And we're also, of course, going to get through the Stanley Cup final, but we have to finish off those conference finals between the Rangers Panthers and Avalanche Blues. And we have about 14 minutes left, though, in regulation of Game 1 here, as Fredrik Gaudreau back to the point for Spacek. Trying to find some space, but does turn it over as Hansel goes for Forsvahal. Working towards the net, Forsvahal does lose possession, as Guzda will freeze it. Now we will get the offensive zone draw. Jaromir Pitlick out there against Nicholas Robertson. Advantage Pitlick as Hansel goes for Leonard, back for Bouchard, a rip as that one was knocked away in traffic. Spacek now for Nicholas Robertson as he will dump it in. Panthers do pick it up though as Hansel feeds that over for Bouchard. Up the boards now for Fredrik Lehner, trying to get another one, put us back ahead. Fighting there through good physicality there from Lehner. He does have a big body and uses it well. As Roberts now a shot blocked in front by Lambos, who gives for Fredrik Gaudreau. Gaudreau will dump that in. And now Jeremy Hansel with it as he's held up behind the net. And Nicholas Robertson does find that free puck and kicks it back for Mietinen. Now over for Lambos, back for Mietinen. And so we'll work up towards the net, but does turn it over, trying an extra pass there, as Lyksa will dump it in. And I think that hit the netting, so it does stop play. Now we have our third line out there with Kyle Morey at center. He does lose that one to Steven Lorenzo. Now O'Leary into the zone for the Wild. Into the corner, good hit there. But O'Leary still with possession, gets it for a man in front, but that's knocked away and ricochets away from the goal. Lorentz now battling against the boards, gets it for O'Leary. Back for Lorentz behind the net, but loose puck in front as Morey gives it for Braden Schwartz. Now over for Ali Lykesell. Over for Kyle Morey now. Kyle Morey a shot blocked. And Ottenbreit with it. The lone goal scorer for Iowa so far. Ovechkin, good job keeping it in the zone, gets it for Schwartz. Now back for Roberts. Roberts towards the net, and a good shot in front, but gloved by Guzda. 8:56 remaining in regulation in Game 1 of the 2028 Calder Cup. We'll see if we get some overtime action here. As Ovechkin, good job getting away from a man in Varlamov there from the point. A good save by Guzda. Still, though, Poughkeepsie has it in the zone. Although Toporowski loses it as Mietinen gives up for Zuccarello. Iowa now with a rush. Good feed now for Banquier. Although good recovery defense there from Bouchard poking it away. I'm sorry, that was Ovechkin poking it away and giving for a man. Although Varlamov turns it over, and Zuccarello a chance. And sprawling out for that one was Javon Marks. A huge save and another bad turnover, which almost led to a goal. Toporowski now into the zone for Poughkeepsie. Wheel into the corner for Varlamov, but gets it back now. Back to Varlamov to the point. And now in the slot for Tomasto DeLuca. And now for Roberts. Back over for Holmes. For DeLuca. Still with it now. Back for Holmes. A rip there. And I think that was ricocheted away. And now along the boards. Battling for the puck. Toporowski does end up with it. Back for Colton Roberts. Now for Holmes. A shot there in traffic. Almost redirected by DeLuca. But Guzda read that one all the way. Some good offensive zone pressure now finally from our Panthers. As we do get a couple chances. And hopefully we can build on that. As we're out shooting them 6-0 in this third period. Again, only 6 shots on goal so far for the Wild. And yet we are tied up here. A rush now for Iowa. Trying to at least add to that shot total. As they do not get one yet. Still with it though in the offensive zone. Hunt over across there for Bayreuther. Now for Edstrom in front backhand. And a good save there from Marks. A surprise shot there. But he was ready. Into the final 3 minutes now. A forehand chance there from Grundstrom goes wide. And we do win possession. Forced Vahal now for Vorobiev. Vorobiev now for Jaromir Pitlick. Pitlick hit off the puck. As that'll be picked up now by Nicholas Robertson. But look at that from Pitlick. As he's just throwing the body. And that's going to go for elbowing now. A little too aggressive. So 150 left of regulation. And Iowa is going to be on the power play for the remainder. Unless, of course, they commit a penalty of their own. So we're going to be on our heels here in the remaining 150 of regulation. Now, at this point, we got to hope for overtime. Unless we can answer the bell here. And like them, put away a shorthanded goal of our own. It's going to be Braden Schwartz, former third-round pick at center. As he loses that one. Spot check for Grundstrom. And a good setup there off the face-off. But Marks a glove save. We'll do it again here. This time, Fredrik Lehner is at center, usually at right wing. A little tie up there as Xavier Bouchard steps up to get it and clears it. Although spot check gives for Lambos. Grundstrom now on the zone entry, although closed off by Bouchard. And a great defensive play there, getting for Lehner, who makes a man miss there. Just shakes a body, but then takes a body. As a strong hit there, I believe, from spot check, hits him off the puck. And now Iowa trying to get something going here into the final minute of regulation. Zuccarello turns that over. Great defensive play there from Fredrik Lehner as Marks is forced to freeze it. Face-offs are 14-13 advantage Iowa. Although we get it that time. Now right in front though for Coleman, a shot as that was served up on a silver platter. But Marks again using that glove to his advantage. Now make it 47 seconds left in this third period. Morey wins the draw back for Roberts. Trying to get the clear as he does for Jenkins. And Jenkins now has some space on the breakaway. And he gets a shot off this time, but blockered away as Iowa back with it. At least we got a shot that time. Our last 2 breakaways, our guy just like turned around as that one goes offside. Now 33 seconds remaining in the third. Shots are 18-9, advantage Poughkeepsie. But no advantage on the scoreboard, unfortunately. As spot check, a huge hit there. He was hit to the ice. Fortunately, no penalty, though, as Coleman gives for Lorentz. Another rush here for Iowa. Gaudreau now towards the net. as that was blocked. Now a loose puck, Lorentz gives back for Lambos, as Varlamov intercepts that in the slot. Now for Heimel-Salmi, as he will clear the zone. Spacek, though, great catch there, showing off his wide receiver skills. Spacek down for Lorentz into the final couple seconds, as we will head to overtime here in Game 1 of the 2028 Calder Cup. Some great action so far, a lot of good defensive plays on both sides, but especially Iowa forcing a ton of turnovers. And even though we're out shooting them, you just got to think how many more opportunities we could generate if we're able to hang on to the puck a little bit more disciplined. We had that early goal, but nothing since, and they tied it up shorthanded, but hopefully we can get this overtime winner in Game 1 and set the tone for the series. We do have about 10 seconds of 5-on-4 here, as we are already back to full strength though, and we're going to be at 5-on-5 now. Nicholas Robertson leading the charge for Iowa here to open the overtime period. Bankier now over for Grundstrom, as he could not get a clean shot off. Loose puck there. I thought Marks had it, but he did not. Now Heimel-Salmi past center ice now over for Damiani. Loose puck though, as Zuccarello, great pressure as he forces the turnover. And now Nicholas Robertson for Iowa. Good hit there along the boards as he's forced down to the ice by Heimel-Salmi, but Zuccarello for height as he had a good chance there, and that's again gloved by Marks. Defense's zone draw now to the right of Javon Marks as advantage Damiani. Vorobiev gives over for his defenseman, now up the boards for, I believe that was Blade Jenkins, now for Damiani, although he's closed off trying to enter the zone. Loose puck now along the boards picked up by Hunt, although picked up now by Blade Jenkins towards the net as he turns it over for Bankier, now for Hunt. Hunt now leading the charge for Iowa. A shot there, blockered away into the corner. Good save by Marks as Heimel-Salmi retrieves it. And now for Vorobiev. Vorobiev leading the charge in front as he tried to get Damiani, but a great defensive play there. I believe that was Hunt to intercept it. And now back the other way is Iowa. Coleman poked away, though, by Jacob Holmes. Now behind the net is Heimel-Salmi, still out there. A long shift so far for him. Forsvahal now over for Pitlick. Jaromir Pitlick into the corner. Now in front for Forsvahal. A good feed there, but Guzda a better save as he closed it off. We're still tied up here, of course. If this overtime period is still going on, of course, we're still tied up. Sudden death. Winner takes Game 1. I'm sorry, next goal takes Game 1. As we have Pitlick again on the face-off. A little tie up there as Gaudreau will take that for Iowa. Now over for Bayreuther. As he passes the blue line into the zone. A shot there, and that almost tucked in to that top corner. Great save by Javon Marks, just closing off that angle. Trying to get it out of the zone now as Jacob Holmes does. Long pass there for Pitlick as he turns it over in front to Hunt. And now Grundstrom, a long pass across the ice as he gets Nicholas Robertson now up for Fredrik Gaudreau. Gaudreau poked away as Fredrik Lehner now with it. Lehner with our lone goal in this game going back to the first period. And that time turns it over to Nicholas Robertson. Now dumped into the zone, picked up by Hansel. Jeremy Hansel up the boards there for Bouchard. As he turns it over now for Gaudreau. Big hit there as he loses possession. And now here's Braden Swartz. Kyle Morey to Hansel. Jeremy Hansel a little stop and go gives for Kyle Morey. Kyle Morey towards the net as he gets it over for Ali Lykesell, and he had the open net but couldn't finish as that went across. And we are still going here from Poughkeepsie. Oh my goodness, I thought we had the goal there. And now Iowa back the other way as Hansel forces the turnover in front of the net. Good defensive play, standing his ground. Braden Swartz there to dump it in, and now into the corner for Lambos. He kicks that along the boards. Poughkeepsie still with it, back to the point for Lykesell, a shot but blocked in front as Lambos with it for the Wild. Now for Lorentz. Lorentz into the zone as he battles past the man there now behind the net. Trying to get a man in front, but Hansel there to pick it off. Poked away there by the goalie as Braden Swartz tripped up there, but no call. I don't think, at least. No delayed penalty. But I think that was a clear trip, but nothing doing. And out along the boards. I mean, we're probably better off not going on the power play anyway, as evidenced earlier. And now Iowa rushed now the other way as Lorentz with it. You just kind of feel something brewing here. Lorentz now in the slot for O'Leary. Over for Lambos. A rip there from the point as Marks closes that one off and freezes it. 7:37 left in this first overtime period. It would be fitting to get double OT going back to our NHL series. Our game 2 against the Rangers, we had double overtime action in which we would lose Mika Zibanejad. I'm sorry, it was Artemi Panarin with 2 goals in that game 2, which led the Rangers to victory. And then Mika Zibanejad had a hat trick, I think, in game 4 as Spacek had the game on his stick, but Marks, with some help there at the post, able to keep it out. That was Riley Damiani providing some support, and we are still alive here. We only have 1 shot in this overtime period, 7 for Iowa, as they have flipped the script on us. Roberts now off the face-off win as we again turn it over. Iowa back with it. Coleman for Banquier into the zone. Banquier spins off a man towards the net in front, trying to get Zuccarello. Backhand chance saved by Marks. And now there's Riley Damiani spinning away from a man, gives over for Vorobiev. Vorobiev up the boards now for Roberts. As a second chance that time, keeps it in. Still with it. As Roberts now back for Ovechkin, over for Damiani. Damiani in front for Vorobiev, could not get a shot off. As the Iowa back the other way into the final 5 now of this first overtime. Bonke in front for Zuccarello, and he finishes forehand. And I just said moments ago, you kind of feel something brewing here. We just could not get a puck in the back of the net no matter what we did. And we owned, pretty much all of regulation, but it did not matter as Iowa able to force overtime, and they dominated all of this overtime period. I think outshot us about like 9-1, 9-2 or something of that nature, and we just did not bring it in overtime. Talk about someone who's scored a lot of big goals over the course of their career, and maybe not one of the biggest ones he's scored, but definitely one of, in recent memory that he'll remember at age 49. Matt Zuccarello, of course, a story-decorated career there at the NHL level, and now here playing at the AHL, going for a Calder Cup. He did help Minnesota win the Stanley Cup back in year 2, but now trying to bring one to the AHL level as we fall here in game 1, 2-1, in a very good overtime thriller. A lot of defense, but we could not finish in this game. Matt Guzda was the third star, stopping 18 out of 19 shots. The second star was Turner Ottenbright, 1 goal, 1 hit. He had that shorthanded goal, which of course drew us at 1 apiece. And the first star, none other than Matt Zuccarello, 1 goal, that overtime winner, along with 2 hits. And we had a huge shot advantage on them, and they ended up pretty much bringing it even as we ended just 19-18. Hits was 25-21. And we had just 50 seconds more on time on attack. Devastating loss there. Definitely a game we should have won, but unfortunately that's not always how it goes, especially you can ask our Hartford Whalers, because that's probably a series we should have won, but we ended up falling in 6 games anyway. But we're going to go back to the NHL level now here for a couple game sim ahead and see how these conference finals series go, as St. Louis does knot it up at 5-0 as they post back-to-back shutouts. And after Colorado took games 1 and 2, St. Louis has taken games 3 and 4, and the same situation in the Eastern Conference as the Rangers were up 2-0, and now the Panthers have struck back, winning games 3 and 4 as they took game 4 3-2, as now each conference final turns into a best of 3 as they're both knotted up after 4 games. So now switching back to the AHL, we're going to jump back and forth here as we conclude this year 5 season. In game 2 now of the Calder Cup, we outshot them 12-2 in the first period, but again, that does not result into an advantage on the scoreboard. After the second period, still no scoring. We're out shooting them 23-12, and still no scoring in this game. And after the third period, we do win 1-0. Fredrik Lehner, he has scored both goals for us so far in this series. As we said, our top prospect in the organization, as Javon Marks, our third prospect in the organization, posts a shutout here, his first of the postseason, as he also gets his 11th win, but not enough to be the first star as it was the goalie for Iowa. But we do even up that series, and again, we'll jump back to the NHL and sim ahead a couple days and see who wins these game 5s, as Colorado does win game 5 3-2, and the Rangers win game 5 7-5. There in a game that had 12 goals, a wacky one there from Madison Square Garden. So after each side there tied it up 2-2, the team that was up 2-0 would go on to win game 5. So now Colorado 1 win away, along with the Rangers are 1 win away from an appearance in our year 5 Stanley Cup championship. And now jumping back to the AHL, we're going to simulate game 3, and now hopefully we can take the series lead. We get a 2-0 lead here in the first period. Not even 2 minutes in, Blade Jenkins gets us on the board. And then Andrei Vorobiev, our leading goal scorer during the regular season, got one from way in the corner. A tough angle but he made it work. Now after the second period, we add one more, and it's none other than Fredrik Lehner, already his third of the series in as many games. And after the third period, we do surrender one goal there to Fredrik Lehner, but still we win game 3, now up 2-1 in the series. And Javon Marks stopped 32 out of 33 shots in this game. A remarkable performance from him. He has been standing on his head so far in this series, and I definitely would think he's been our MVP over this playoff run, if not Fredrik Lehner. Now, jumping back to the NHL here, and we'll see if we can conclude these conference championships. Colorado and New York in a win and clinch situation, which the Colorado Avalanche do clinch. They win 3-0. They shut out the Blues, and the Avs are going to be playing for the Stanley Cup. They're representing the Western Conference despite losing Cale Makar and Gabriel Landeskog this past offseason. They still do have Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, so one of the best 1-2 punches there in all of hockey. But the Panthers forced game 7 as they win 5-1 over the New York Rangers. And with that, we'll now flip back to the AHL as we've been doing, leading this series now 2-1. And let's see if we can take game 4, and we'll follow the trend here, just simulate in real time and see how it goes. Or not really real time, we'll sim by period as we take the 1-0 lead after the first period. Varlamov gets us on the board, and after the second period, a 5-0 lead now. We explode for 4 goals. It all started with Ali Lykesell, not even 4 minutes into the period. Vorobiev got one, Riley Damiani got one, and with 12 seconds left, we got one from Braden Schwartz, his first season at the AHL level, and we get a 5-2 victory here, and we're now just 1 win away from securing our first ever Calder Cup in this franchise, and we'll see if we can take it on home ice in game 5. But before that, we have to settle game 7 here between the Florida Panthers and New York Rangers as they await the Colorado Avalanche in the Stanley Cup final. And the winner there was the New York Rangers. So it's going to be a Colorado Avalanche New York Rangers Stanley Cup here in 2028, our year 5 season here on NHL 24. The Rangers, of course, defeated us 4-2 back in round 1, went on to beat the Devils in 5 games, and they survived game 7 there against the Panthers and are going to be taking on the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche defeated the Chicago Blackhawks back in round 1. The Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup back in year 3, so just a couple seasons ago, and then the Avalanche would survive 7 games against Dallas in round 2 before beating the St. Louis Blues in 6 games en route to an appearance here in the Stanley Cup final against the New York Rangers. We will just preview those teams real quick. I know for those who have been following this franchise are more familiar with that Rangers team, as we did just face them in that past round. And we'll first take a look at this Avalanche team. As I said, without Cale Makar, his first season with the Dallas Stars, as they were eliminated by the Avalanche in the second round there in game 7. That must have been a crazy series. And we also traded for Gabriel Landeskog, so they are without a couple key components here, but still with Nathan MacKinnon at the center spot, along with Mikko Rantanen on that top line, as they're joined by Brandon Saad. And the second line here with Tyson Yost, Ross Colton, and Valerie Nichushkin, very experienced there on the second line, but you could tell they're very top heavy on that top line and kind of diminishes as we go along. But a lot of experience, a lot of veterans here on these bottom lines. Jaden Schwartz at 35 years old, with Blake Coleman at 36 years old. And on the bottom line, it's Ryan Lomberg, 33 years old, Tanner Gienot, one of the best fighters in the NHL. And they're also with Michael Rasmussen, who we actually traded in that Landeskog deal. We also traded Samuel Bolduc, who we see here is on their second line, or their second pairing on defense. He has 2 goals over this playoff run his first season as an Av. He posted a career-high 22 points, career-high 15 assists. But the top defensive pairing here is Bowen Byram, Samuel Girard. They also have Michael Matheson here, 34 years old, in that second D pairing. Jack Rathbone, Mahura there on the bottom one. And their goalie is Alexander Gorgiev, so he's going to be going up against his former squad in the New York Rangers. 12 wins over this playoff run for the Colorado Avalanche, with 2 shutouts in that span, stopping .920 on the save percentage with .247 goals against. And real quick, we'll also take a look at that Rangers team, even though we're a little bit more familiar with them. Adin Hill, last year's Vezina Trophy winner. He's had an up-and-down postseason, but mostly good, with 12 wins and .914 save percentage to .290 goals against. But going to their forwards here, we have Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, and Kevin LeBlanc, a very top-heavy line here for the Rangers. But I think they're a little bit deeper than the Avalanche with Sharon Govich, Hedel, and Lafreniere. They get him back for this series because he did miss round 1. And despite that, the Rangers were still able to beat us. And Pierre Engvall, Blake Lizotte, and Vincent Trocheck make up a very solid third line here for the Rangers. And Curtis Lazar, Jesper Bachvist, and Mason Shaw there on the bottom line. And defensively, they have Keandre Miller, Adam Fox, a very good top pairing there. And then on the second pairing, it's Matthias Smith, the 19-year-old rookie, along with Ryan Lindgren, the bottom pairing here with Braden Schneider and Jacob Trouba. So I think the Rangers are definitely the more talented team. This is the first time over the course of this franchise that they've advanced past the first round of the playoffs. They were outed in the first round every single year over the first 4 years, but now make it all the way to the Stanley Cup. So I guess you say that's worth it if you're able to get a cup out of it. a few years later. But back to our AHL series now, and we can clinch the Calder Cup in this game here, leading the series 3-1. After the first period, we are down 2-1, though. Banquier gets a goal, but Leixel answers soon after. But then Banquier gets another one, so already 2 goals in the first period. He's on hat-trick watch. And now after the second period, it's still a 2-1 game. So we will go real time here in this third period as we have an early power play. And we'll see if we can get the equalizer. Nothing doing quite yet, as Iowa is able to kill it off, but we get the tying goal there from Tommaso DeLuca, but only 17 seconds after that, Matt Zuccarello gets another one, and he puts the Wild back on top. Trying to make this series a 3-2, as they currently hold a 3-2 lead here into the final 5 minutes. Now into the final minute, and the Wild here take Game 5, so it's a 3-2 series lead now for the Poughkeepsie Panthers. We just have to win 1 out of 2 at this point. And now back to the NHL Stanley Cup final here. We'll see who wins Game 1 between Colorado and New York, as Colorado takes it 4-2, and they take the early series advantage as we jump back here to the AHL, and we'll see if we can conclude this series in Game 6. Definitely don't want Iowa to force that Game 7. Definitely puts more pressure on us after squandering that 3-1 series lead. And we are trailing now. Height gets Iowa on the board in the first period as they lead 1-0. And now after this second period, it's still a Wild lead as they lead 2-1. Vorobiev tied it up with 4:50 left in the period, but just over 3 minutes later, Kospik put Iowa back on top. So as we did in the last game, we'll send this in real time as Blade Jenkins, an early goal, gets us on the board as we're now tied up here. 2-2 here in Game 6 of the Calder Cup Finals. We might have overtime, and if this does go to overtime, we will jump into it, as that goal would clinch the series for us now into the final 2 minutes, into the final minute. And we are going to have some post-regulation action, as we did back in Game 1. But this time we'll see if our Poughkeepsie Panthers can deliver that game-winning goal. It was Matt Zuccarello not long ago who put the Wild on top in this series, but they have trailed since then pretty much after we were able to tie it up in Game 2, and then taking the series lead in Game 3. We have not looked back, but the Wild a chance to tie it up now as they are on home ice. We do win that opening face-off as Jacob Holmes will now give for Damiani. Damiani trying to find a man towards the net, but Coleman intercepts it now for Zuccarello. Matt Zuccarello trying to build on that legend that has been a great postseason for him as Iowa on the doorstep, but Mark turns him away. And now Vorobiev in the neutral zone gives for Blade Jenkins, had that game-tying goal back in the third period. And now Zuccarello leading the charge, gives for Banquier. 2 goals in this game already as he's hit off the puck. Now Poughkeepsie back the other way. Vorobiev spins away from him. Haimosalmia's shot, kick save into the corner as now Zuccarello gives for Coleman. Coleman into the zone. Closed off against the boards there. Good hit by Haimosalmi. And now Vorobiev will lead the charge here as he gives for Haimosalmi. And we do dump it in. We have a little 2-on-1 action here as Damiani stalls. A little too patient maybe that time. Trying to find some space. Haimosalmi rebound! And we are Calder Cup champions! Blade Jenkins tucks home the rebound. And the Poughkeepsie Panthers have won our first ever Calder Cup in franchise history. If not a Stanley Cup, we'll take the Calder Cup, because winning doesn't matter. As, at any level, that is the goal. We have a lot of prospects on this team, headlined by Javon Marks, our standout goaltender, who is set for the NHL next season. Going to back up Yaroslav Askarov. A valiant effort from the Iowa Wild. It was a very good series, as every game was pretty close. We didn't really blow them out, besides our last effort, I believe, when we had a 4-goal lead or a 3-goal lead, but we'll take this. They had over 2,500 games of NHL experience. And despite that, our young team, more of a development team, we took a little, different approach here at the AHL level, as we're now focused on our prospects. There's Javon Marks, along with Ali Leixel, leading the handshake line, one of the best traditions in hockey. Our captain there, Haimosalmi, I believe he had that first shot which led to the rebound that had Blade Jenkins tuck it home for the trophy. And Blade Jenkins definitely going to go down in Poughkeepsie Panthers history. There's Braden Schwartz, a young prospect we're trying to groom into an NHL role, one of the top 2-way forwards in the organization. And there's our captain, Haimosalmi, there to collect our Calder Cup. And what a great game this was, a great series And like I said, if we weren't able to win it at the NHL level, at least some of these younger guys that we've drafted into the organization, there's Varlamov, a former 4th or 5th round pick out of Russia, a grinder archetype. Blade Jenkins had the game winner, an alternate captain on this team. I believe he's been at the AHL level in all 5 seasons now of this franchise. Maybe it was 4, but either way, he's been one of our pillars here, and it's great to see him able to celebrate with a lot of these younger guys who are hopefully going to be groomed into NHL roles. It's great to have a team celebration here. Spirits are high as we take that team photo, and hopefully this is a building block on a team photo that we're going to get to take at the NHL level, and hopefully as soon as next season. But Riley Damiani, the 3rd star with 3 assists in this game as we did outshoot Iowa 33-26. Heimel Salmi had 3 assists, 2 hits. He was the 2nd star, and like I said, I think he had that first shot on that rebound, and Blade Jenkins 7 hits in this game, throwing the body along with 2 goals, including the tying goal in the 3rd period and the game winner here in overtime as we are Calder Cup champions in year 5. So now just one more order of business to get through as we put a bow on this year 5 season. We'll just take a look at our playoff leaders here in stats and take a look who has shined during that playoff run. So Riley Damiani does end up as our leader in points, finishing with 17, headlined by 13 assists, and we saw 3 of them came in that Calder Cup clinching game. Fredrik Lehner, balanced effort here, 8 goals, 8 assists for 16 points. He had 3 goals in the first 3 games of the series, but then kind of went silent, and I think he went on a 2-game or 3-game point drought to end the series, but we'll take the effort nonetheless. Heimel Salmi, 13 points, and his line mate here on defense, Xavier Bouchard, is our defenseman, tied for 3rd in points over our playoff run, 12 points from Zeb Forsberg, 10 from Andrei Vorobiev. He had 7 goals, which was 2nd behind Fredrik Lehner. We'll now just sort by goals. Lehner, Vorobiev led the way, 2 young guys who we've drafted into the organization. Hopefully one or both can work their way up to the NHL squad at some point next season, if not by the start of regular season. Blade Jenkins, 6 goals, 2 in that series clinching game. Ali Lykesell, Damiani, Jaromir Pitlick each had 4. Leading in assists we saw was Damiani, Bouchard, Heimel Salmi with 10, tied with Forsberg, 8 from Fredrik Lehner. And in points we saw Damiani led the way, followed by Lehner, Heimel Salmi, Bouchard, Vorobiev with 10. Plus minus went to Heimel Salmi at plus 10. Jacob Holmes at plus 9 behind him. Penalty minutes, Jaromir Pitlick tacked up 19 penalty minutes, almost 1 per game. Or that actually was 1 per game. Game-winning goals, we had 3 from Lehner, 3 from Vorobiev. Our young guys delivering in clutch spots. 21.6 shot percentage there from Lehner on the power play. We only had a few power play goals over the course of this playoff run. 1 shorthanded goal there from Kyle Morey, leading in face-off percentage. Among our centermen, we would say it was Riley Damiani at 55.4%. You love that. And leading in hits was Blade Jenkins. We saw 7 of those hits came in that last game. Giveaways, not really going to pay attention to that. 30 from Vorobiev, 19 takeaways from Hansel. And we had a couple fights, actually a few fights here. Blade Jenkins had one, throwing the fist. Braden Schwartz, Jaromir Pitlick, and also Varlamov. So we had more fights during this AHL playoff run than we had during our entire NHL season. So we love to see these younger guys, these scrappy guys throwing the fist. And Javon Marks, a standout effort here, 14-4-1 with a shutout. I believe that was back in Game 2 or Game 3. And he stopped .932% of shots he faced with a 201 goals against. And at 6 foot 187, kind of reminds you of like someone like Dominik Hasek. And now up to 81 overall, 23 years old. Javon Marks is ready for the NHL. So definitely tune back next season and see how he performs. But before that, we have to settle now this 2028 Stanley Cup final between the New York Rangers and Colorado Avalanche, as the Avalanche lead it 1-0 so far. And now make it a 2-0 series lead as the Avalanche also win Game 2. So there's 2 wins away now from securing our Year 5 Stanley Cup final. We'll sim ahead another couple days, and they take Game 3 as well. So the Avalanche currently hold a 3-0 series lead on the New York Rangers. The Rangers, of course, are going to have to win 4 straight games if they want to win the Cup this season. Now into June of 2028. And we'll see if the Avalanche can win the Cup as they do. A clean sweep there over the New York Rangers, as the Western Conference has now taken the Stanley Cup in all 5 seasons of this franchise. Our Calder Cup champions, of course, are Poughkeepsie Panthers, as we just enjoyed a tremendous playoff run there, most specifically there in the Calder Cup. But the Colorado Avalanche, Stanley Cup champions in Year 5. What a season it was for them after losing Cale Makar to the rival Dallas Stars. They unload Gabriel Landeskog, and they still overcome those odds and win the Stanley Cup. Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Bowen Byram, the foundation there for the Avalanche, bring them their second championship here in like the past 6 or 7 years or so. Last year's winner was the Ducks, year 3 was the Blackhawks, year 2 was the Minnesota Wild, and going back to year 1 was the Edmonton Oilers. So as I said, every season so far, the Stanley Cup champion has come out of the Western Conference, and it's been a unique champion every season at that. The President's Trophy did go to the New York Islanders, although they were swept in the first round by the New Jersey Devils, as Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes came out on top against their brother Quinn Hughes, who is now with the New York Islanders. The Clarence S. Campbell Bowl there goes to the Colorado Avalanche. We'll take a look now at individual awards, and the Art Ross Trophy goes to Claude Giroux, aging like a fine wine. I forget what his exact point total was at, but I think it was at like 112 or something like that. Just absurd production from Giroux this season. Also gets the Hart Memorial Trophy, as he's judged to be the most valuable player to his team. Last year, it was Nikita Kucherov who brought home that hardware. The Norris Trophy here goes to Cale Makar. He's won it 3 out of the 5 seasons so far in this franchise. Adam Fox has won it the other 2 seasons, and Makar definitely living up to that huge contract he cashed in on this past offseason. Claude Giroux, his 3rd award now. He gets the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy, as he exhibited the best sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct, and we wouldn't expect anything less there from an all-time Philadelphia Flyers great. The Calder Memorial Trophy there goes to Ellis there of the Arizona Coyotes. I do remember him as a top 5 draft pick. I think a very good goal scorer there for Arizona. The Conn Smythe goes to Nathan MacKinnon. I believe when they won it back in 22, it was Cale Makar's award. The Vezina goes to Spencer Knight, his 2nd time winning that in 3 seasons. Still here with the Florida Panthers, of course, among the top goaltenders in the NHL. They also brought home the William M. Jennings Trophy, as the Panthers allowed the fewest amount of goals during the regular season. The Masterson Memorial Trophy there goes to Edmondson of the Vancouver Canucks. Coach of the Year here, Jack Adams, goes to Peugeot of the Los Angeles Kings. I believe they made it to the 2nd round of the Western Conference Finals. The Selk Trophy here goes to Connor Bedard, the first time he wins it. The Ted Lindsay goes to Claude Giroux, another award for him, as he was judged to be the most outstanding player by the NHLPA, and he is set for free agency, I believe. Not sure if he's going to retire, but if he were to, he definitely would retire on top after posting maybe the best season of his career. And the Maurice Richard Rocket Trophy here goes to Jason Robertson of the Dallas Stars. I think he might also be set to hit free agency. And actually, I do want to see who won the award for pretty much the equivalent of the Conn Smythe there at the AHL level, as we'll go back to awards. And we see there for the first time the Calder Cup goes to the Poughkeepsie Panthers. And we're just going to scroll through and see who the MVP was of that playoff run. Pretty much just going to scroll until we see a Poughkeepsie Panthers player. And Fredrik Lehner does get the Jack A. Butterfield Trophy, as he was named MVP of the Calder Cup playoffs. I thought it might be Javon Marks. That's personally who I would have given it to, but they said otherwise. But I also see here Jay Archibald of the Charlotte Checkers, a bunch of awards. He was the MVP. He scored the most points during the regular season, had the most goals, and also had another award here towards the end, as he best exemplified sportsmanship, determination, and dedication to hockey. So a name to remember there, Jay Archibald, an AHL legend after this season, but not enough to lead his team to a championship. But this is where I'm going to leave you, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Year 5 is now officially in the books. It did not go as well as we had hoped. Of course, a first round exit is not what we wanted to endure after a tremendous regular season, our best so far in this franchise. But we're going to come back stronger in year 6, come back next episode, our off-season episode, and we're definitely going to have to make some moves to strengthen this team and, really build ourselves into a team that can take that next step and not only win a playoff series, but advance as far as the Stanley Cup. And we're trying to bring it home for the first time in the Eastern Conference, and we're going to look to do that next year in year 6. But of course, like I said, come back for the offseason and see what we do to make some moves and strengthen this team, because we definitely need to make a splash. We have the cap room to do it, I believe, and we're definitely entering this offseason with an aggressive mindset. But as always, everybody, thank you so much for another great season of this Hartford Whalers expansion franchise. And as always, everybody, it's been real and be well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.